Well, hello, folks. Today it's Bitcoin for beginners, for absolute beginners, because when I first got into crypto, I had to listen to people talk geek to me for hours, borderline days, and I still didn't understand what it was all about. So this is for you if you're relatively new for the space. If you're not, then you're probably wasting your time because I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know, or maybe you don't. Maybe I could give you a nugget of gold that you think you know the space well enough. Now, let's just start off. I'm not an expert. I know enough to sound intelligent to those that know nothing about the space. And I know not enough to go into the world of geekery when people that really know what they're talking about. My gift or my talent is simplification. That's what I do. So this channel's for people that don't have a load of time to listen to geekery, and they don't need a dictionary to translate the many ridiculously complicated terms that you find in crypto. So there you go. With that preamble in place, let's go. So Bitcoin, firstly, Bitcoin is different to every other digital currency. Bitcoin is different to every other asset out there. And why is that? Because the big ongoing debate has been, what is Bitcoin? The SEC and the FCA, the regulatory authorities in the UK and the United States, have been on a witch hunt to try and shut down digital currencies. And the big question is it a commodity or is it a security? Now, securities are subject to very big regulations. Commodities aren't. Bitcoin has been said that it's a commodity, which means that the regulators can't touch it. But they had to do that because no one knows who Satoshi is. So let's see, why is this? Is Satoshi? Nobody knows who he is or she, and what is it all about? So the bottom line is that the global debt now is at an unsustainable high. I believe it's somewhere in the region that we now owe 3 times more in debt than we actually earn as a global economy, which means that they keep printing money. There's no way that we can pay it back. There's going to be, at some stage, an explosion, a debt bubble, a great reset, some people are calling it. And people are looking to hedge their bets and buy stuff that won't deflate in value when the bubble pops. So most things will, unfortunately, folks. Most people haven't woken up to this reality that is staring us in the face. Most people have got their head in the ground and hoping that it's not going to affect them. It is, folks. It really is. So Bitcoin is some people's choice to hedge their bets of something to store value. Some people are buying physical gold and silver and things like that, physical assets. Other people are buying digital currency, and Bitcoin is one of them. And why is Bitcoin a good idea? Because Bitcoin has a fixed supply. They can't just print more of it. It has a fixed supply, which means its value will only go up over time. So while it has lengthy dips, it always goes up, and it's outperformed every single other asset over every single class since its existence, folks. Just look at the charts. It's outperformed everything. Now, why is so many people saying, don't buy Bitcoin, it's bad for you? Well, look who's saying this stuff. In fact, the people that were saying this like 5 or 6 years ago, the banks, the regulators, the Black Rocks, all of these big funds, don't touch it, folks. The only reason they were saying that is because if people realized what Bitcoin was, they'd cash in all of the stuff from their funds and buy Bitcoin. And the funds have finally woken up to the fact that their investors want exposure to this because it's an asset that outperforms everything else. So, and as a PS, folks, this is just a commentary. It's not financial advice. I'm definitely not giving you anything there. I'm not telling you to invest in Bitcoin. I'm just giving you a running commentary, like a news report of what's actually happened, the fast track of what's happened in the sector, why people are taking Bitcoin seriously, and what it actually does. So the banks, the regulators, everybody has been going after Bitcoin. And now they've come round and they're finally starting to realize that Bitcoin's here to stay. So look at El Salvador. El Salvador has converted to Bitcoin now. It is their currency because they don't trust the dollar. And this whole thing is about the global reserve currency. So currently, the dollar is the global reserve currency, and Bitcoin threatens that. What also threatens the global reserve currency is the BRICS alliance, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. That's the acronym for BRICS, who are now getting together and want to have a competitor for the dollar as a global reserve currency. So there's all sorts of shenanigans going on. What's the global reserve currency? Meanwhile, people that have been in the shadow of the dollar, like El Salvador, are starting to see the light and come awake that digital assets are the way. So there's the big global macro reason why people like Bitcoin. So there were exchanges in the UK. The UK is particularly draconian when it comes to Bitcoin and digital assets, as are the states and the SEC. But what's interesting here, folks, so the current, and it was banned in China. Bitcoin mining was banned in China. The governments that hold the biggest shares of Bitcoin, surprise, surprise, are the US and China in that order. So the countries that are going after the Bitcoin are also the countries that are holding the most of it. So let that sink in, folks. I mean, if you want a few stats of what's going on with Bitcoin. Not only that, a lot of security around Bitcoin has been suspect. The FCA over here won't regulate it. So any crypto banks or any exchanges that store Bitcoin, they won't guarantee it under the FCA, because if they did, people would exit the banking system. The banks would lose all of their money overnight. They realized that you could buy an asset that appreciates over time, that pays interest on it, and some of this exchanges, things like Nexo, will pay you interest to hold your Bitcoin on there. And that's just one of many. Definitely not promoting it, because in the UK, they've actually stopped people from opening Nexo accounts now. So I wouldn't be able to promote it over here, even if I wanted. But the point being that people can now store their currency on crypto exchanges and be paid significant amounts of interest. And the banks are waking up to this, and they're starting to pay like paltry amounts, stupidly small amounts on your savings accounts now. But there's much better options and opportunities in the digital market with Bitcoin. So there's just a few reasons. That's a very globally macro summary of what's going on in this space, folks. And that's also a big picture reason why people are taking Bitcoin seriously. And not only that, but people that have Bitcoin can borrow against it. So you can borrow against an appreciating asset, a bit like your house, a bit like remortgaging your house. You could do that with Bitcoin, thus not creating taxable events. But that's definitely out of my remit. Go and look up tax lawyers that understand this game better than I do. But there's just a few reasons, and this is really a beginner's guide for people that are just getting into cryptocurrency. And if you want very succinct summaries with no stupid, nonsensical language that you can't understand, then by all means, folks, you need to subscribe just here and get my little updates, which will be every now and again, just to help you to understand this without complicating the space.